Bad draw. That draw is over. Steelers touchdown.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Steel Curtain Podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Jaggi, editor of SteelCurtain.com, and joining me, as always, is Steel Curtain contributor, copy editor for Fansided, Shayne Kubas. Oh my goodness, this team, I don't even know where to begin with them, Shayne. If once you think it can't get more disappointing than kind of the stuff that we've witnessed in recent weeks, they find a way. They find a way to do it. And so the Steelers are coming off of a 26-7 loss against the Buffalo Bills. Couldn't move the ball all game. Obviously didn't even score in the second half. Barely got the ball past midfield. Just a disaster. I mean, we're talking about a team that can't pass the football. Certainly can't stop the run. Allowed 249 yards on the ground against Buffalo. Since then, we've got some interesting comments from head coach Mike Tomlin, some from Pat Freiermuth. This team is in disarray. I mean, former players are speaking out. Like, where are you with this football team right now, Shayne?
Not nearly as good as I would have liked to be. Let me tell you that much. In the first half, I was like, all right, this is about as ugly as it gets. But we have a lead. We got a kind of a free touchdown off of James Cook fumble. Like, they're doing the turnover thing. Maybe it's going to be all right. And then the second half started and it all fell apart immediately with no real warning at all. And it just kept snowballing from there. And we'll talk about the reasons why. But again, this is as bad as it gets for this team. Like, you cannot really play a worse football game than they did, especially the reasons why they happened. They're just really hard to stomach this late in the season.
Yeah, Shayne, I think the biggest takeaway coming out of this game, it's around head coach Mike Tomlin. Like, I think even the national media understands at this point. And for them, that's hard because it's when they see things from a distance, they're not studying it 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week like we are. They look at Mike Tomlin and say, oh, this guy's never had a losing season. But I think even the national media is coming to grips that, things have gotten stale. It's not working anymore. And so that's our big discussion topic for today. We're going to talk about, should the Steelers fire or move on from Mike Tomlin in some way, shape, or form after the 2025 season? We'll get there. So stay with us for that. Let's talk about the fire Tomlin chance, though, Shayne, if we could, because I mean, not surprised to hear it. I mean, this is general sports. I mean, what happens in stadiums when your team isn't performing well?
When you're getting blown out, people are probably drunk and tired and don't want to be like. Even if this was a 10-2 football team, that's probably still going to happen sometimes. But this one felt a little different.
It did feel different, and Tomlin actually addressed that. I didn't know how he was going to take that question from the media, but he addressed the fire Tomlin chance, and I mean, it made it sound like he almost agreed with what the crowd was saying there. It's in some way, shape, or form, at least. And so I think he probably knows it's kind of warranted at this point. Is that a discouraging sign where we are right now? Like, what do you make of this whole situation?
I think it's more so that he understands where it's coming from. Whereas I think maybe in the past, like when they've struggled at times, like 4 or 5 years ago, he was still like very confident about his ability and the team's ability to climb out of whatever hole they might be in or bad loss. And I think at this point, it's been so long, even for him. You think about fans, how long we've been saying, oh man, we can't get a playoff win. We can't do this or that. I think more than ever, he is feeling that pressure to some degree. And I think he's more willing to understand the point of view of fans who are mad at him, who do think he deserves to be fired. And it's definitely not good when you get to that point. Like, as a coach, as a player, you want those guys to have the utmost confidence in themselves. And I just don't see that with this team or frankly, this coaching staff.
Yeah. And there should be pressure. I mean, you're running $1 billion business. There has to be results. We're not seeing results, and we haven't for quite some time now. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but very discouraging. Ben Roethlisberger spoke up afterwards on his Footballin' with Ben Roethlisberger podcast, where he kind of, it didn't sound like he was joking about it, but he made it sound like if Tomlin moves on from the Steelers or the Steelers move on from him, maybe you should go coach Penn State. I mean, they seem to have infinite job security up until recently. So
somebody needs to coach that team. No one is saying yes so far. So, someone has to be given the job. So,
I mean, I think there's a lot of parallels there to what's been going on in Penn State over the years. And so Ben's comments, to be clear, Go be Penn State's head coach, Roethlisberger said. You know what he would do at Penn State? He'd probably go win national championships because he's a great recruiter. And I think that's the one thing that you can still say about Tomlin is he recruits, or at least at first, guys like to play for him. I bet if you ask Darius Slay right now, he probably doesn't. But everybody, at least at first, gets stoked about playing for Tomlin, and then they probably kind of lose interest as the season marches on. But I mean, that's honestly over the last several years now, Shayne. Like, that's the one thing we can say about this head coach is that players in general seem to like to play for him. But if it's not that, like, what else does he have going for him right now?
Right now, specifically, not a whole lot you can hang your hat on. And that's obviously the biggest issue is it's great if all the players want to play for you, but only so many can. You can't have every player. Like, I don't care if every player in the NFL said they wanted to play for the Steelers. There's only 53 roster spots, and you only have so much money to throw around. Like, you kind of you got to do the best with what you have, even if you can bring in more talent. He's not maximizing that talent, even to the extent that he used to. Where, I mean, think about it. We'll talk about this more later, but this team was 10-3 at one point last year, and they did not have as much talent, I don't think, in general, as they do right now. Overall, it's just not the same.
It's not the same. And if you're wondering what Tomlin's stance would be on potentially leaving the NFL for college football, he made that abundantly clear. And I dug up this quote from October 2021, and I have a hard time believing it's that long ago. Like, it feels like just yesterday that he said.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But Tomlin said to the media, "Hey guys, I don't have." This is in regard to being asked about would he leave the NFL for college football. "Hey guys, I don't have time for that speculation. That's a joke to me. I have one of the best jobs in professional sports. Why would I have any interest in coaching college football? That will be the last time I address this, not only today, but moving forward." And he was very stern in those comments that he made.
Yeah.
If the choice, I don't know if it should be up to him anymore. I really don't know.
No, like, it's not.
When you have gotten this stale as an organization, unless there are a handful of teams out there in the NFL that would sign Tomlin, and we heard Rex Ryan say, "Oh, Tomlin would be signed in 2 seconds." That's not a good argument to keep him on your team just because another team would sign him in 2 seconds. They did the same for Pete Carroll, and he looks bad already. So it's not a good argument to make in favor of keeping Tomlin. But I mean, Shayne, I would assume there's going to be NFL teams interested. I mean,
yes,
name your reputation alone. But is it really that outrageous of a thought for him to coach college football? I mean, those high name schools paid a lot of money to do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's outrageous for someone to suggest it as like I think you'd be good at this. Now, I understand for his perspective, he got a head coaching job when he was very young in the NFL and has kept it for 20 years now almost, right? It does probably bother him, and I can understand why it bothered him for someone to say, "Oh, well, you need to go down a level," right? Like, you need to go to the college level. But I don't think it's really about that, and at least I don't think so for most people. I do think it's just his best thing that he does is he can recruit people. People love to play for him. He can maximize, at least in the past, has maximized players to the best of their ability. Like, he gets the most out of guys. Like, that's the best qualities for a college head coach to have. Doesn't mean that he can't also still coach in the NFL, but I think people are just viewing him in the way of like, you'd be really good at this most likely, right? And if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. Like, he can retire, he can coach another team. That I do think that would happen. I do think another NFL team would absolutely hire him.
Yeah.
Sorry. But it wouldn't be a bad thing. I don't think it should be viewed as a bad thing if people say, "Hey, I think you'd be really good at being a college head coach."
Yeah, I don't think it should be like derogatory or anything that way.
Yeah, I don't think it's supposed to be an insult. It's just like, I think you're good at this, right? Like, yeah.
But again, even the great Bill Belichick went that route.
He's coaching right now, and he's not even doing good. Which is hilarious,
and that's why. And I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Tomlin went on and the same thing happened and followed the same career path. Now, I don't think it's going to happen, by the way. I can't see him doing that, especially because of what he said in the past. But I mean, that's where we are right now. Shayne, I want to move on and talk about Pat Freiermuth's comments. Here's a player that might not be thrilled about playing for Tomlin right now. Obviously, you're not going to ever come out and say that about your head coach. You're probably not going to say that about our offensive coordinator. But Freiermuth is frustrated with his reduced role, and he had this to say to the media. Obviously, it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, I have complete faith in Arthur Smith. Just got to be able to understand my role, and hopefully it changes moving forward, Freiermuth said. Just got to be able to go out there and do what is asked of me. I mean, this is a guy, Shayne, that had 60 plus receptions and nearly an average 600 yards in 3 of his first 4 NFL seasons. And then suddenly he's just a complete afterthought in an offense that, for whatever reason, insists on featuring Jonnu Smith, who is a terrible blocker, by the way. I mean, he just gets washed out in the running game. I just don't know even what to make of this. And in my stance on the tight ends, it could not be clearer. It's Darnell Washington is your best. Freiermuth's the second best. Jonnu's the third best in that order. And that's probably how you should be playing those guys. Unfortunately, I mean, Freiermuth he's gotten the shaft. I mean, he's been the most, he's had the most to lose from Jonnu Smith joining the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's been bad for his career path so far.
And I think the most frustrating part about this, and I actually wrote an article about Pat's just lack of usage and what was said about him by Mike whenever he had, our Coach Tomlin, whenever he had his press conference. He views him as just another capable option in this offense. And that just simply can't be the answer to this. Like, you cannot answer that questions about his usage with that, because again, this is a guy who has 3 seasons out of 5 now, technically this season, with 60 plus catches, over 600 yards. He has 7 touchdowns in 2 separate seasons. This is not just another weapon in your offense. At least he hasn't been in the past for the most part. Just last season, he had a career year in a lot of metrics. Like, for him to be completely phased out of an offense that can't throw the football, how can you look at it any other way than the coaching staff is doing something wrong here? Because you could talk about Jonnu Smith being added, and that shouldn't have meant that he doesn't have a role anymore, by the way. Like, I talked about this when that move was made. My hope was that they had a true plan to get all of these guys involved. They've been able to get Darnell more involved this year, which is great. But Jonnu, the last 4 games, he has like 5 receptions. It's not even like he's getting fed the ball. No one is getting the football in this offense right now. And when they do, it's only sporadically. And for him to not be featured in the passing game this late in the season, when he had a game against the Bengals this year that was a career game. Like, he literally had the best game of his career this season, and yet he's on pace for the lowest marks of his career in receptions per game and yards per game. There's no justification for this. Like, you can't tell me that Pat Freiermuth is suddenly not a good player anymore. And that doesn't mean he's a superstar, but you have DK Metcalf and no one else right now, except when the couple times you decide to throw the ball to Darnell Washington. Why aren't you trying to get him the football?
Yeah, Shayne, and raw numbers don't always tell the whole story, but in this case, it certainly does. Freiermuth's been targeted 32 times, turned those opportunities into 298 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jonnu Smith has been targeted 43 times, turned his opportunities into just 190 yards and 2 scores. 9.3 yards per target for Freiermuth, 4.4 for Jonnu Smith. It's double the efficiency overall. You've got a better passer rating, thrower, like everything's better throwing to the guy that you already had on the team, the guy that you invested a 2nd round pick. And look, I'm not trying to make Freiermuth out to be something that he's not. I think he is, I don't know, the 15th to 20th best tight end in the NFL, maybe the 12th on a good day, but he's better than Jonnu Smith. And I think that's very clear at this point for Pittsburgh Steelers fans. It's super easy to see. So I can definitely understand his frustration with all this.
Yeah, it's just really frustrating. And we didn't talk about it yet, but I think we should touch on this real quick. Their apparent answer to helping this passing game is claiming Adam Thielen off waivers, because that's going to do something, I guess.
We need to talk about Thielen.
Just like, what is this, Tommy? When I saw this, because we obviously write for Still Curtain, that's our main thing that we do here. His podcast is powered by it, all that good stuff. But we're writing about the Darius Slay release, which good that finally happened. And then this happens. I'm like, what is going on? What are we doing here? Let's get rid of one 34-year-old player to get a 35-year-old one instead. I know it's different positions, but like, come on.
Yeah, Shayne, I think the Steelers are the only team in the NFL that could have gotten rid of Darius Slay, who, by the way, Darius Slay is 2 years older than the next oldest cornerback to take a snap in the NFL this year. They got rid of the oldest cornerback by a mile in the NFL, and they got someone older than him. And they're going to act like it's going to, obviously, again, different position, Adam Thielen, wide receiver. It's not going to move the needle for sure. Is it going to make any improvement? I kind of doubt it. I think At best, what you can hope for Thielen is that you can be a short to maybe intermediate passing option, safety valve, maybe look over the middle of the field more than you have been. But
Probably not.
at this stage of his career, Adam Thielen is 35.2 years old. I can't imagine him being good. And I know that he's not coming from a good situation because of the quarterback play in Minnesota, but on the season so far, Adam Thielen has 8 receptions on 18 targets for 69 yards. And I don't know how you can watch him play football this year and say, that's it. That's the guy that we need. The guy that was a Pro Bowler in 2018.
Hey,
So, I mean, if Steelers only had a time machine, Shayne, I think that they could have a really good football
it'd be
team
awesome,
right now.
yeah. If it was 2018 right now,
3.8 yards a
awesome.
target for Adam Thielen this year, a 55.1 pass rating when targeted by Vikings quarterbacks. In comparison, Shayne, and this is what we need to talk about, because every move, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. In this case, it's Roman Wilson who is going to be pushed back to the bench again. And I'm not saying that Roman Wilson's good. I'm also not saying he's bad, because I genuinely think the Steelers have done him no justice by making him a backside decoy who pulls the opposite safety away and not being a one of the first reads in the offense. In the only opportunity he had in this game, in the Bills game, he dusted a cornerback and he had 6-7 yards of separation, and Rodgers just way off the mark. I mean, would have been an explosive play on his only target. So it just the quick player to player comparison breakdown right now. Thielen, 3.8 yards per target, 44.4% success rate, 1.3 yards after the catch per reception. Thielen has 10 yards after the catch on the entire season, Shayne, on his 18 targets. He's managed 10 yards after the catch. He also has a 16.7% drop rate this year. He's 35 years old and a 55.1 targeted passer rating. Whereas Roman Wilson, although again, not incredibly efficient, Steelers quarterbacks have been really bad, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit too. Yeah. But Roman Wilson got 12 passes on 21 targets, 166 yards, 8 yards a target, 47.6% success rate, 5.5 yards after the catch per reception. So 5 times better after the catch, a 0% drop rate. He's 24 years old, so 11 years younger than Thielen. And he has 114.4 pass rating when targeted, even with all of the Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph struggles over these past 5 weeks. And they've been as bad as any quarterback tandem in the league during that stretch. It's been really bad. I don't see a needle moving roster decision here. I would still run it with them and try to make something work, because you're not going to get better getting that much older.
No. And again, like this move, it's part of the problem for this football team that they think we just need one more veteran who knows what he's doing. We just need one more high floor guy that can help this offense move a little bit better. It's not going to work. It's not good enough around the talent that you have. Like, you do not have enough talent to get away with playing the brand of football that they play. You can't play the conservative, avoiding the middle of the field, all that. Like, you can't play offense like that in 2025, period. But especially if you don't have overwhelming talent to be able to just go win on the outside constantly and be able just to pick and poke at the edges of the defense and all. Like, you're not good enough to do that. And they keep thinking that they are, and they think, oh, I just need one more guy who can get us one more catch on third down or whatever. It's the Mike Williams of it all from last year. Like, and I don't think Thielen's even going to have his moment of winning the game with a touchdown. Like, I doubt that's probably going to happen. My luck, he will this week. But the point is, like, that's what you're hoping for, and it just doesn't make any sense. Develop the players you have, trust them, because you're 6-6. What else do you have to lose? What you're doing right now isn't working, clearly. So why not change stuff up? Well, we know why. So.
Hey, Shayne, maybe it'll be in year 3. I mean, that's what it was for Darnell Washington. That's how long it took Tomlin to play Darnell Washington. I don't know what it is, but the Steelers have a really hard time developing talent, and they have a hard time getting them on the football field because Tomlin seems to love guys that were Pro Bowlers like 7 years ago. And so those are the people that he targets in free agency. And we've seen this song and dance before the last few years. Allen Robinson, Mike Williams, who you mentioned, now Adam Thielen, all guys who are clearly, and every fan can see it, you are over the hill. You are washed up at this stage of your career. what is the sense of going out and getting those players? Even Van Jefferson, like Van Jefferson was old, he was just bad. So what is the point of playing these very subpar NFL receivers over your young guys, who at least the young guys, there are hope. You gotta look their way. You have to target them. And I can tell you from watching Roman Wilson's film, watching the sky view from the all 22, the route concepts were not very good. He ran 12 patterns in this game. He was open on half of them. Rodgers was looking the opposite direction, found him too late, missed him on his lone target. Like, there were opportunities to be had, like there are every week. Maybe you should just try to, I don't know, get him the ball a few times and see what happens, but too late for that. Adam Thielen's going to jolt himself into the starting lineup. And hey, now maybe Darnell Washington's like the second fastest pass catcher on the roster now that Roman Wilson won't be on the field anymore.
Oh, yeah, maybe it's possible. At least with a head start, get up to speed. So
it's rough stuff. We'll see what happens, and maybe I'm coming down too hard on him. I'm not a big fan of Thielen at this stage of his career, but we'll see if he offers anything. You're tuned into the Still Curtain podcast, where Steelers fans come to talk, celebrate, and debate. For more coverage, hit up stillcurtain.com, powered by the passionate fans at Fansided. Shayne, let's briefly talk about the Steelers' 26-7 loss against the Buffalo Bills, week 13. It was rough. It was an ugly game. I mean, are there any positives to take away from the game on either side of the football? I'm trying to think. Like, Darnell had the one nice grab over the middle of the field. By the way, it was like the only pass over the middle of the field beyond 7 yards, which has become a staple of this offense for whatever reason. Doesn't matter who your coordinator is. It seems like the last 5 years, they avoid that part of the field, and it's so infuriating. I've been writing about it every week. You can go to Next Gen Stats, look at their passing chart. They just hardly ever throw the ball over the middle, and it's so hard to have success when you do. It's what makes it more infuriating, Shayne, is when you look at a guy like George Pickens and what he's doing for the Dallas Cowboys right now. The vast majority of his production is coming on slants and posts and stuff that is engineered to go over the middle of the field and get you yards after the catch. The Steelers don't have that with their offense. Now, they do have yards after the catch, but it's because they're dumping everything down to the flats or behind the line of scrimmage, and the receivers are forced to do everything afterwards in a much more difficult situation. I'm not a fan of this offense at all. Let's start on offense and start with the quarterback situation. Aaron Rodgers in this game, you talk about a pitiful performance. 10 of 21, 117 yards, 108 net yards when you take his sack yards into consideration, 5.6 yards per attempt, and a 6.2 QBR. Ironically, Shayne, it's the second time in the last 4 weeks that Aaron Rodgers has had under a 6.5 QBR. Like, what are we doing here? This is not Aaron Rodgers only by namesake. It's not the same player anymore.
Yeah, this game in particular, it just, because he's played pretty poorly for 4 or 5 starts in a row now in general, for the most part. Not every start's been terrible, but for the most part, it's been not nearly as good as it started. And it's just clear that he can't play football the way he used to, and the way he can play football now just simply doesn't work. That's the end all be all of it. You can't play quarterback in the NFL when you're afraid to get hit, when you can't manage the pocket, when you can't escape the pocket to make plays, and when you are unwilling and maybe unable, depending on who you ask, to work the middle of the field and push the ball down the field. If you can't do any of those things, you can't play quarterback in the NFL on a consistent basis, really at all, in any basis at this point. We've seen what it looks like. Yeah. And obviously the wrist injury compounds things and gets hit in the head basically and gets bloodied, and it's just all bad for him right now. And I would say to put him out of his misery essentially and just put Mason Rudolph in, but he's worse somehow, even when he's not hurt. So that doesn't make that doesn't help at all. And we'll talk about it maybe for the first time with any real sincerity in a minute. But at this point, is it impossible to say that the best quarterback on the roster might somehow be a 6th round rookie? Is that I don't think that's impossible to say anymore. It used to be. I don't know if it's impossible to say that now.
No, it's not. And anybody that's questioning, you guys are crazy for thinking that would be better than an experienced Rudolph or even an old Aaron Rodgers. All you need is a little bit of aggressiveness. If you watch this offense, you go back and watch the all 22 and you see how simple it truly is, where you are, you're just passing to the flats. You're half the passes are coming behind the line of scrimmage or within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage, you're rarely pushing the ball down the field. When you do, you're terrible at it. Let me pull up a stat for you real quick. I'll grab this one first before I share another one. Let's see. It was Ben Fennell who put this out here. Where is that? I have it. 1 second. Yeah. While I'm grabbing that, I'll have to look for that one. So anyway, let me go back to this one here for you, Shayne.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers over his past 5 games here. So this is what we're looking at. And this is how bad it's gotten. And I mean, again, what do you do at this point? He's averaging 27.6 passing attempts per game, but only 16.8 completions for 163.2 yards per game. That is scraping the bottom of the barrel. 5.9 yards per attempt. That's passing yards. Doesn't even consider net yards when you're sacked. And an 83.5 passer rating. He's turned into Kenny Pickett all of a sudden. And is it the Mike Tomlin factor? Like, is it just your offense truly is that conservative where you can't make anything happen?
I think that's part of it, but it also just comes down to he has a 42-year-old playing quarterback. Like he can't do anything that he used to do. And early in the season, it looked better than this because they were getting away with some of the stuff and being able to rely solely on after the catch and all that good stuff. But he just can't play football the same way anymore. And the way he can would not be – it might be good enough on, like, let's say the Vikings, right? Like, if the Vikings had Aaron Rodgers, it might be okay for him to play the way he is because they have enough talent around him where they're not going to ask as much of him to complete difficult passes and stand in the pocket. Like, it might work. But outside of a team like that, is there a team he could be an above-average starter on currently? I don't think so. Like, I simply don't. And with this team, it's never going to be even close to average, clearly, for the past 5 games. Like, you cannot put up numbers like that on a team that's not winning because you're not even like that. That's the other thing that's incredible to me is this team is losing games in that stretch and he can't even put up passing yards, period. Like even the garbage time yards aren't coming. Like
you're trying to come from behind. I mean, you're trying to come from behind and teams are
it's insane
prevent defense and
to be able
down
to
3 scores. It is. It really is. So I have that stat here. This is the one I was going to share with you, Shayne, from Ben Fennell of CBS Sports. And the Steelers, this is Rodgers and Rudolph collectively here because Rudolph obviously had started against the Bills and came in for 3 passes last week, and they were terrible passes.
That's
an interception and a turfed ball. And
what was that about? I still can't figure out.
I don't know
any of it really, but yeah.
So the Steelers have not completed a downfield pass in over a month of football. They are 0 of 13 with 3 interceptions in their last 5 games when passing the ball 20 or more air yards. To put that into perspective, that's a 0.0 QBR, obviously, because you don't even have a completed pass. You'd be better off spiking the ball into the ground, snapping it, and immediately spiking it for 13 plays in a row than you would be doing that. It's unbelievable that you can have that little efficiency where you couldn't even luck into, like, if Josh Allen was throwing left-handed, his stats probably wouldn't be
something would happen. Some play would be made by someone.
I mean, it's remarkable that you can go a month without completing a single downfield pass, at least not through the air. There's run after the catch stuff, but through the air, they can't do it.
And that's part of the problem is when defenses know you can't do that and you won't even target the middle of the field to open up anything else, it becomes so easy to guard this team. It is this might be the most guardable team through the passing game in the NFL because at least every other passing game, even if it's bad, they do more stuff and they try more things. Like even the Browns, right? Like they're terrible in the passing game. They have 2 rookie quarterbacks they've played. Joe Flacco started there early, was just chucking picks. They have no talent receiver. I still think teams are probably be more worried about playing the Browns passing game right now because they at least will probably try more stuff, right? There's more things to think about doing. You might luck into a big play like Shayne did against the Raiders where he threw that ball. Like you might luck into something like that. There's nothing to look into for this team. Like nothing happens. You can go a whole game and be like, wow, I didn't see one interesting thing happen all day. You can't play football like that anymore.
It's a mess. And it's, again, you can't point the blame at just one person. It's Rodgers, it's Arthur Smith, it's their lack of wide receiver talent. It's their pass protection, even sometimes not holding up long enough. But my overall a takeaway from the passing game, and where I think, like, in general, what happens is Rodgers looks to his first read. Oftentimes that's DK Metcalf, who happens to be double covered a lot because there's not anybody else that's truly threatening on the team. He will kind of stare down his first read. The other receivers kind of getting jammed early in the route. By the time that he looks off of that read, if Metcalf isn't open, then he's to the point where he's already kind of scrambling out of the pocket. And we know what he's done in terms of a scrambler, not just this year, but last year with the Jets. Like, he just kind of tucks and runs at this point. He does not the same throw on the run. He can't escape pressure like normal. And that's when typically not very good things have happened. And so that's your typical play in the passing game. And it's why he only completed 10 of 21 passes this past week, because when the play did break down, he just does not have that ability anymore to make something out of it. For what it's worth, Shayne, Aaron Rodgers these past 3 weeks, and again, you can take PFF grades with a grain of salt. I can tell you that the film hasn't been good, so it's not surprising to see this, but over the past 3 weeks, Aaron Rodgers' grades, a 35.3 in week 10, a 42.9 in week 11, didn't play against the Bears, and then a 45.7 in week 13. He has been one of the lowest graded quarterbacks in the NFL. And to further expand on this, he ranks 33rd, Shayne, in intended air yards per pass attempt. He ranks 33rd in completed air yards per pass attempt. He just doesn't throw the ball down the field with any sort of efficiency at all anymore. And so, I mean, he's just become a bit of a check down Charlie. It's not effective.
No, and again, like, it's to the point where it's almost comical, right? Like, where it's as soon as there's any pressure, like, all right, well, I know Aaron's probably gonna run into a sack here, or he's gonna chuck the ball away, or he's gonna just run around until he gets hurt. Like, something bad's gonna happen almost every snap, it feels like. Like, you're just waiting to see what it's gonna be. I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty sure if Rodgers completed like a backside dig to Roman Wilson, I might fall out of my chair watching game. Like, that's kind of what I've reached with this offense. And that's insane to me to think about watching Aaron Rodgers play football. But everyone has their time. His time was probably last year, realistically, because he had a strong end of the season, but it didn't, and it carried a little bit into the start of the season. But, like, he feels about as done, or looks about as done as a guy can look without being, like, carted off the field, basically. Like, it's got to end. It's gonna end after at least the end of this year, I imagine. But, like, I don't even know if he should be on the field again at this point.
Yeah, and honestly, it shouldn't be all that surprising. He's the oldest guy in the league. He hasn't had a good season since 2021, so we're talking 4 years removed from a good season. It shouldn't be that surprising. He just doesn't have it in him. Shayne, let's move on, and we'll quickly talk about these other positions here so we can get to our Tomlin topic for today. Running game, not effective. Jaylen Warren, 10 carries, 35 yards. Kenneth Gainwell, 5 carries for 20 yards. Caleb Johnson, of course, only plays when the game is 3 scores out of reach and comes in with 1 minute and 3 seconds left in the game to get 2 carries for 3 yards. Like, on the Steelers as a team, 58 yards, 3.2 yards a carry rushing. I mean, they were outgained on the ground by nearly 200 yards against
James
Buffalo.
Cook had more yards than they had, period.
Yeah.
By himself.
I mean,
outproduced the Steelers offense by himself.
Unbelievable how lopsided every single facet of this game was. The yardage, the time of possession, Shayne. I mean,
42
how
to
often
18
do you
or something
see
like that?
time of possession like this? Buffalo won the time of possession battle 41 minutes and 59 seconds to 18 minutes in a second. I mean, it does not get more lopsided than that. And it's so frustrating to see. The yardage battle, 372 to 166. Total plays run, 74 to 43. Third down conversions, 8 to 3. Like, every area of the game just humiliated. They don't look like they belong on the NFL stage right now.
No, and I think the most disappointing thing for the defense is obviously the run defense part, and we can talk about that in a second. But just going back to the offense for a second, just to finish this off, this is as bad of an offensive performance as we've seen in a very long time for this team. And this team was quarterbacked by Kenny Pickett, and the offense was run by Matt Canada not that long ago. And I can't tell you for certain that I've seen something worse than this. Like, this is about as bad as it gets in the NFL for an offense. If it wasn't for the James Cook fumble, this team might have been blanked for the first time since 2006. Like that certainly was on the table. If that play doesn't go their way and they don't get that touchdown on the short field, they easily could have been completely left out of the end zone and out of points entirely.
Oh yeah. They could have been shut out in this game. And Shayne, one note on the receiving end that I have here is Steelers receivers, all of their wide receivers combined for 32 yards in this game.
They were all from DK Metcalf, right? If I'm not mistaken.
They were all from DK Metcalf.
Which
no other targeted receiver was able to collect a reception in this game. I mean, it's just bad. I mean, what can you say? It was bad. Anything else that you have from the offense before we move on to the defense, Shayne?
No, I mean, I think we can leave them behind for the rest of this. Not that the defense has a lot more to talk about.
No,
we need to. Yeah.
We need to talk about these for a second because the Buffalo Bills ran the same play. I think it was 26 times. They just open up part the Red Sea and then just let whatever run. I mean, run right through there. TJ Watt bad in this game. He wasn't holding up. Jackson Hodge just owned him.
Jackson Hodge, to be fair,
he's the best run blocking tight end.
Yeah, that guy rocks, to be fair, but it's still tight end. Like, let's not.
But it's a tight end, and you should. I mean, you're a $41 million edge rusher. You have to be able to get the best of a tight end blocking you, and so that was not the case. It made rushing extraordinarily easy for the Bills, who again ran for 249 yards on almost 5 yards an attempt in this game. James Cook was able to carry the ball 32 times for 144 yards. Ray Davis, 9 carries for 62 yards. Of course, Josh Allen got his 38 yards in there. It's just not what you want to see at all. Derek Harmon was obviously out in this game. Would not made the difference in the game. They still probably would have looked like a bad football team because
would have helped probably, I guess. But like, I would have liked to see him try, but it would have been nice. But yeah, I don't know how much it would have mattered with the way. I mean, they, like you said, they were just reading out like, all right, the linebackers went this direction. I'm going to run this way. And then no one was there. It's like, all right, well, cool.
Yep. Some miscommunications, overloading one front, trying to adjust for it and failing, but it came down to execution. Wasn't very good. Again, I mean, it's just, we could talk about it all day, Shayne. There's almost nothing to be encouraged about by this game other than it's behind us. Like that's the only thing that you can say now is hopefully you got that one out of the way. It was really bad. And I don't really have many positive notes for anybody on defense. I mean, the one thing I will say is the pass defense as a collective did a fairly good job containing Josh Allen. But honestly, I think the biggest reason why is because they didn't need to pass the ball. They could just run all game.
Yeah, like it wasn't about like not saying that like they were bad by any means, but Josh Allen didn't have to do anything. He could have stayed home. I know he had a couple of nice runs that helped them extend drives and everything, but like he didn't have to do anything. Look at his numbers. Like he didn't do really much of anything in the air because he didn't have to. But he also evaded the rush. Like their pressure percentage was very high because they had backup tackles, but it didn't affect the run game at all. They were still able to run the ball, and then he would just make guys miss in the pocket constantly. I can't tell you how many times Nick Herbig and Alex Highsmith and whoever else would miss a sack on him because he's 6'5", he's 245, and he's better than you. Like that's just unfortunately the reality of it sometimes. But he also didn't have to really worry about pressure because he'd either escape it or just didn't have to drop back. So nothing against the coverage unit. Like I think Joey played pretty well as a cover player. Santo Samuel Jr. in the reps he got looked fine. I'm hoping he can be a starter for them the rest of this year. I think Brandon Echols played a good game in coverage too. Like nothing really substantially bad in that way. Just it didn't matter because, like you said, you run the ball 51 times. Like for almost 5 yards of carry. Like you're not supposed to have almost 5 yards of carry when you run the ball 51 times. Like that's not how that usually works. But for them, it did.
Yep. Like I said, not going to win many games like that. Shayne, anything else from the Steelers-Bills game before we move on?
Special teams didn't matter at all because, like, we can't get in the field goal range. You can't kick field goals. Punting wasn't great, but, like, at that point, who cares? Like, it's not going to help you anyway. You could give them the ball at the 10 if they can run the ball for 5 yards of carry. Doesn't matter where they start in the field, really, unfortunately. Again, this is as bad as it gets. We should probably just pretend it didn't happen for now and move on.
All right, now that we got that out of the way, if you're a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers and would like to support the Steel Curtain podcast, please consider subscribing to the Steel Curtain podcast on YouTube. We appreciate all of your support. Check out our written work on steelcurtain.com. Fresh content dropping all the time. Make sure you're over there for our sports news and opinions on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shayne, let's get to our big discussion topic here. I want to talk about Mike Tomlin. Do I want to talk about Mike Tomlin?
Yeah,
I think
it's more so we
talk
have
about
to
Mike
talk
Tomlin.
about Mike Tomlin.
I think that's probably a better way to put it.
Probably, yeah.
All right. So if you guys have been listeners of our show, you know our stance on this by now.
Mhm.
It's not that we think Tomlin is a flat out bad coach. It's just that it has run its course. I mean, it has run its course years ago.
Yeah.
The
probably.
Steelers, Shayne, I know you know this already, but I'm just throwing out there for the listeners who don't, are going on 9 years without a playoff win.
Mm-hmm.
They are going on 14 years with just 3 playoff wins. And by the way, I'll remind everyone that those 3 playoff wins came against quarterbacks A.J. McCarron, which would have never happened if it wasn't for like the Ryan Shazier forced fumble. Like the Steelers had like a 0% win probability in that game, and the Bengals were literally running the clock out to finish the game.
Thanks, Jeremy Hill.
So yes, so that the 3 wins came against quarterbacks A.J. McCarron, Matt Moore, who got laid out.
Oh yeah, the Matt Moore game, which I still feel bad for him about that one. I mean, Bud Dupree killed him almost.
Oh my goodness! My goodness! So they were down to QB3, and then Alex Smith was the other one, and so those are your 3 playoff wins over the last 14 years now, Shayne. If we're counting this season, if a playoff win doesn't occur this season, 14 years, and that's what you have to show for it. And again, going on 9 years without a playoff win. What other head coach in the league can keep their job for that long? Because Bill Belichick couldn't do it. Pete Carroll couldn't do it. Is Tomlin a tier above those guys? Certainly not. I mean, I think Tomlin has been a good coach at times, specifically early in his career, the first half of his career. Of course, some people will argue, did he take over Cowher's team? Whatever. I think that Tomlin had a good message. He did get his guys to play tough and really physical and buy in at one point. I think that message is stale. I think you're seeing it from former players like James Harrison, Trey Essex, guys who are speaking out and saying, it's done. Put a fork in it. This is it. He can't go on like this anymore. Shayne, is Tomlin's future, let's start with this and then we'll get to our opinions, but is Tomlin's future actually in jeopardy with the team because he's got a year left under contract? Is Art Rooney too just going to let him play things out, or are they going to have a serious discussion about his future after the season?
I think a discussion is going to be had, but I don't think it's going to be about whether or not he's the coach of this team next year. I think it's definitely going to be about what does the future look like beyond 2026? Because I don't think they're going to fire him after this year. I think that they would have to lose out badly, and he would have to kind of admit to himself and to them, like, hey, I don't think I'm the right coach for this team anymore. Then he might be gone after this year. But I think the most likely outcome here is they get together in this offseason, they talk about what they actually think the future of this organization and his future and what direction they want to go in, have a real serious conversation about those things, and then make a decision about, okay, am I going to extend this window? Am I going to play out my contract? And we'll talk about it after 2026. Something of that nature, I think, is going to happen. But I think that's the most that we would expect, is that they actually think about it. Yeah.
I agree with you, Shayne. I think that is where the discussion goes. And as much as a lot of fans would like to say, yeah, Rooney's going to step in and maybe this will be it for him, I think the discussion is, where do we go after next season? And a lot of times the Steelers will extend Tomlin in the final year of his contract. And I don't know if that's going to be the case this time around.
That's the discussion, I think.
What almost scares me more, in a sense, Shayne, not really, but in some ways, if they just, Art Rooney pulls the old Kevin Colbert and we're going to go year to year to year contract until you finally decide to hang it up. And when you do that, which we saw with Colbert, and again, Tomlin was heavily involved in the draft process as well, but it was Colbert had the final say technically as the GM and being there even longer tenured than what Tomlin was. You make win now moves with utter disregard for the future. It's why you plug holes with players like Terrell Edmonds and Devin Bush, and you just do whatever you can to fill some gaps right now, to throw duct tape over a sinking ship. That's a really horrible way to run $1 billion business. And you can't do that. If you're the Steelers, you cannot do it that way. But I do think those conversations will be had after this season. And maybe they will collectively agree, Shayne, finally, after 2 decades, that we're going to go our separate ways after 2026. That is my prediction, if I had to say it right now. And I don't say that lightly, because the Steelers never get rid of guys. They let their head coaches walk away on their own terms. But I think we could hear the mutual parting language after the 2026 season, deciding not to re-up the contract language eventually here. I think we're on the same page with that. Now I would ask you, Shayne, what should the Steelers do? Because obviously we know what they do and what they should do don't always align. In fact, a lot of times they don't. What would you do if you were running the Steelers, if you were Art Rooney too, and you made the choice with Mike Tomlin?
I think you need to fire him after the season. I think you need to let him go. I know that he has another year on his deal. They don't like to do that, but again, this is what they should do. They should fire him, or worst case scenario, they should offer him up to the rest of the league, see if someone wants to trade for him on the final year of his deal. I assume then he would sign a new contract, obviously, with the team that trades for him. Mm-hmm. But you shop him at first. You try to see if there's someone around the league that will bite very quickly when the season's over. And that way you can get into this hiring process with guys that are going to be available. And if he doesn't garner any interest pretty quickly, you let go. You have a whole thing. You do the whole he's always going to be a Steeler, blah, blah, all that stuff, right? You can do however you want to do it. You can handle it that way. But he simply can't be the coach of this team anymore if you want things to be different. And I think Steelers fans, the ownership, everyone in that building, including Tomlin himself, the problem is that he can't help himself. They want things to be different than they are because they're not successful, but he's not willing to do the things required to have something different happen, whether that's allowing yourself to have a bad year because you just don't have the talent and it's not lining up, so you can get better by getting more high-profile players in the draft, whether that's taking a chance on someone who might be a younger player or coordinator to really give you some juice. He doesn't want to do any of those things, right? If that's going to be the case, he has no place on a team that is in this position anymore. So you fire him, you move on, you try to make it as clean of a split as possible, and hopefully he has a chance to go somewhere else and be successful. I think that's still possible, but it has to happen now, in my opinion.
100%. You are done with it. If I'm making the choice, Mike Tomlin is gone after the 2025 season in some form or fashion. I mean, obviously the best situation would be a trade, right? But here's the problem with that. The Steelers gave Mike Tomlin a no trade clause so he can hit the veto button on anything that he doesn't like.
Yes,
also,
you have to work with him. Yeah.
And this is the problem with doing that. It's like,
right. There's a lot of problems with the no trade clause.
There's so many problems. And I understand it's like, all right, you're tenured in this. You're not going to do something without getting that. But why would Tomlin agree to be traded to a team that we're going to pluck a first round pick potentially away from? Like, he'll say, no, just fire me, and then I'll go sign with that team that wants me.
And that's fine if that's the case. But
that's the more likely route if the Steelers were to even consider that. Just because a trade in his mind, maybe he won't listen to this podcast or he won't know that.
Yeah. maybe.
No, honestly though, why would, if he knows a team likes him and he has veto power, why would he go to a team that no longer has a top draft pick? He would say, just fire me, and then I'll go sign whatever contract I want to sign with that team.
Yeah. So make more sense.
So a trade is highly, highly unlikely because Tomlin would have to agree to it, knowing that he's going to get draft capital away from the team that he's going to. So I just don't see that happening, but I think it's worth throwing out there because I would love for it. Any amount of draft capital. Let's do it. But no, I think that firing is obviously the second best option. You can call it mutual parting. I don't care what language you put on it, whatever you want to say to save face for him because he's been here so long and because he has done a good job long ago. You can say that. It doesn't matter to me what language you use, as long as he's not here in 2026, because you can't go on like this. Shayne, Tomlin has no coaching tree. Tomlin doesn't call the offense. Tomlin doesn't call the plays on defense. The defense has gotten progressively worse every year, despite being the most heavily invested defense in the entire NFL. What does he have to show for it? And even the players are getting disgruntled with him. Young guys don't develop. There's every reason in the book not to bring him back, including no postseason success in going on 9 years. There's just zero reason to do it at this point. It's run its course. It's beyond stale. Got to go. Now, the next question that we would bring up then is, okay, if you get rid of Tomlin, well, then who are you going to get to replace him? And Shayne,
That's
to
what
me,
everyone
it's
likes to talk about, don't they? Like,
yeah,
as
they
if we
do.
didn't do this 20 years ago.
I know.
Like,
And this is the thing. No, I'll preface with this. The Steelers obviously are not guaranteed to get a legendary head coach 4 times in a row after you get rid of Tomlin. You're not probably going to get a Bill Cowher or a Chuck Noll. Okay. It's just the way that it is. You're probably not going to get another Tomlin even. But could you get somebody who is different enough that can give you a spark for the time that you need it? And I kind of want them to do away with all of the, we've only had 3 head coaches in the NFL era. To me, it's almost hurting you in a way because you're not willing to move on when you should move on. The time to do all of it into clean house, clean slate, build from the studs up would have been after the 2021 season.
yes.
Ben is gone. You got a young, hungry TJ Watt who is playing the best football of his NFL career. You wasted the last handful of years of Watt because you refused to rebuild the right way. Like same with Cam Hayward's best years of his career. So there were times to do this. And again, I always like to throw out the Andy Reid example.
Yes.
Andy Reid is a terrific head coach, was really good with the Eagles, but it worked out for both teams when the Eagles moved on because the Chiefs went and won Super Bowls with him. And so did the Eagles. The Eagles have since won 2 Super Bowls with 2 different head coaches in Doug Peterson and Nick Sirianni. And so you can see that you don't have to have a coach there for 18, 20 years to get success. You just need the right coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, they're of all the organizations in the NFL, the one that should be the least concerned about hiring a new head coach is the Steelers. They've done it 3 times in a row. Like they're the even more ridiculous version of the Packers where they've had a good quarterback for 3 20-year periods in a row almost. Like that's what they've done too. Like this happens for them. This is what they've done. Doesn't mean it's going to happen a 4th time. But if any team is going to think that they can hire somebody and keep them for 10 years and have success, this is the team to do that. Like, I don't understand the thought process from people of like, well, who are you going to hire? It's like, who would have said that Mike Tomlin was this guy that could never be replaced like 20 years ago? He was 30-something years old as a defensive coordinator for the Vikings, I think. Like, it doesn't make sense, like that argument. But if we're talking about who could replace him, I wanted to think about this a little bit longer, and I wanted to make sure that I had some names to throw out here because it's a little weird this time of year. Like you hear who's supposed to be, candidates and all this stuff, but there's 3 that stuck out to me, and 2 of them are guys that fit the mold of what this team typically has looked for in the few times they've done this over the past 50 years. And then one that I think would also be a really good hire, but would be a whole different direction, right? You'll know these names if you're a fan of the NFL or if you're a fan of the teams that they're currently on, you'll know them as well. But right off the bat, the first one for me, Chris Shula, Rams defensive coordinator. Young guy, has been in a really good system with obviously Sean McVay for a very long time. His defense is awesome to watch. Like they're very fun. They do a bunch of different things. The pass rush is ferocious, even though that they really only have one true, in my opinion, like difference-making guy with Jared Verse. The back end is, even though it doesn't have a ton of talent, it gets the job done. That's the type of guy that I think the Steelers gravitate towards. And he is, again, a younger coach that if you hit on him, he could be the coach here for 15, 20 years like you've had in the past. Same thing with Jesse Minter, the Chargers defensive coordinator. Similar situation. He's running a defense that is kind of filtered throughout the NFL and has had a lot of success. He is a guy that's going to be really popular too. Last one, this is more my speed just because I like this type of head coach, Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. Get yourself, if nothing else, one of the best things to try if you're going to move off Tomlin, if you want to go as far off the reservation as you can while still hiring someone who is going to be really popular, get yourself an offensive mind who can run the offense. You will never have to worry about losing your offensive coordinator. He's made Sam Darnold, outside of a couple games, which, Sam Darnold, whatever, look unbelievable, even better than Kevin O'Connell made him look, in an offense that had more talent overall in it than I think the Seahawks do. He would also be an awesome hire. But if you get any of those 3 guys, you might have a coach for 20 plus years like you want, and they might just be a better fit.
Shayne, that is the guy. That is the one that I would get really excited about. I'm a big Clint Kubiak fan. I think he's done a phenomenal job as an offensive play caller, adjust to the strengths of his teams. I mean, what more? If they were to go that route, all for it. Here's the problem, Shayne. The Rooneys have only ever hired these defensive-minded head coaches.
Yep.
And I can't see him breaking that trend.
That's
really
the problem.
can't do it.
Yeah, that's why I had Shula and
And I
Minter as
think
my
you need to
two.
get with the times. Like, if you go through that, we're not going to do this right now because this is a Steelers podcast, but if we go through every NFL team and you list who are the best defensive-minded head coaches in the NFL, you might get 2 names in the top 15 coaches: Mike Vrabel, DeMeco Ryans.
That might be it, because Sean McDermott doesn't do it for me anymore.
No,
So he'd be one that people would talk about, but
so
not for me.
every other mind is offensive mind,
or like a CEO type, like the Tomlins, the Harbaughs,
the delegator,
the Campbells.
yeah,
But even Campbell, he'll just take over play calling sometimes. Look
at the Lions too without Ben Johnson, and they're not the same. I mean, the play calling has gotten much worse. But that's not the direction that I would go, is what Steelers have typically done. I would go against the grain because what you're doing isn't working anymore. I think that there's a lot more value in getting a brilliant play caller on offense than there is getting a guy who can scheme up good defenses. Yes. Yeah. So for me, Clint Kubiak would be my favorite hire if the Steelers were to move on from Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
What I will say is, I know this is in the past now, we can't go back. The Steelers missed a window. They missed a brilliant window in an amazing coaching cycle last year. They could have went from Tomlin to Vrabel. If they wanted that defensive-minded head coach, we knew Vrabel was a good coach. He could have been that guy for the Steelers. Ben Johnson, probably my favorite candidate that I've ever studied before, and it already looks amazing. He's leading the Bears to a 9-3 record so far. I don't think Steelers would have done that. I don't think Ben Johnson would have done that because Steelers didn't have a quarterback and the Bears' situation was better. He could choose to be picky.
Yeah.
But I think that's the direction, those are the kind of hires that the Steelers need. This window, there are several. Jeff Hafley would be another one, the Packers defensive coordinator. I consider Packers' defense has
head coach experience in the NFL.
Now they've got talent. They've got Micah Parsons now. But if you're insist on going with a defensive mind, that would be one that I would consider as well there too. So there are some options. And I don't want fans to like fret and be like, oh, well, the sky's falling. If we get rid of Tomlin, there's not going to be a good coaching option. As long as the Steelers are willing to say, if we don't get it right and we figure that out after 2, 3, 4 years, we need to be willing to move on. We don't need to be stuck in our ways from the 70s until now, where it's like, we're just going to stick with whatever coach we have because we want to keep that mantra going. Like, you've got to be able to swallow your pride and say, all right, maybe we did mess up. Maybe we did. And at that point, you could hire again and try again. It's what the Eagles have done, and they found success doing it. When things got stale with Doug Peterson, moved on, Nick Sirianni won a Super Bowl. And so you can do it that way. You just have to be wise about it. So that is where we are on the Mike Tomlin discussion. Do we think he's going to be gone after the 2025 season? We would say no. Should he be gone? A resounding yes, absolutely, for the reasons we just outlined there.
Yeah.
All right. From the highs, the heartbreaks, which are a lot of them, and everything in between, this is the Still Curtain Podcast, your source for Steelers talk, powered by StillCurtain.com and the voices at Fansided. All right, Shayne, let's talk about Steelers Ravens this week. Huge game. A huge game for Pittsburgh. Not because I think that they're going to go on this miraculous run or anything, but your playoff chances plummet if you lose this game. It's essentially a 2-game swing because the team that you're up against this week is the team that you need to beat to get into the postseason. You're not going to do it from a wild card spot unless maybe you win out and one other team in the wild card race falls completely apart. They're 2 games behind in the wild card. Any of those wild card teams, that's not going to happen probably. And that's with other guys on the outside of the race, like the Texans, who aren't even in the playoff picture, still a game ahead of the Steelers. So they would have to be spotless to even get a wild card spot. So we're looking at the AFC North. That is it. It's AFC North or nothing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Surprisingly, the Bengals aren't eliminated yet, Shayne. They can technically win out. Marcus and I outlined this on Stacking the Box.
Yeah.
The Bengals don't even technically have to win out. They could finish 8-9 if certain things go just the wrong way for the Steelers and the Ravens. There's still a chance the Bengals could make the playoffs with a losing record. That's how bad this division is this year. Somebody's got to win it, though.
Division, like Crater, by the way, like it just is not great. Like it's tough to watch these teams play.
No, it is. And so Steelers and Ravens both sitting on that 6-6 record as we enter week 14. The winner of this game is going to greatly boost their playoff odds.
Yes.
And I might find that while you're talking here next, if I can dig that up. But that is obviously there's no bigger storyline than that. Like, who comes out from on top of this game is very likely to win the division, especially if it's the Ravens, based on their other tiebreakers and stuff they have going for them. If it's the Steelers, it still is a great boost in their favor. It makes them not only it would make them the current leader in the division. It would give them better odds than the Ravens to come out on top by the end of the season. We also have, Shayne, can the Steelers stop the Ravens rushing attack? Because that's like the one thing their offense has going for them this week. What do you make of some of the storylines around the Steelers Ravens this week?
Well, just to touch on the fact how big this game is, like, I do think, even though they play each other week 18, I have a hard time thinking that the winner of this game doesn't ultimately win this division, right? Like, it feels like the most likely outcome. Steelers still have a couple tough games that aren't the Ravens. They have to play the Lions in particular. That's going to be a rough game. Honestly, the way Miami's playing on defense right now, that might be a rough game because I know that, like, Tua can't really play when it's below 50 degrees, but he might not have to throw the ball if they can just run Devon Achane 50 times or whatever it's going to be. Like, that, I can't guarantee they're going to win that game, right? Like, that's tough too. So I think if they don't win this game on the Steelers, and I do not think that they make the playoffs, especially as the winner of the division, like, I just don't think that's going to happen. As far as whether they can stop the rushing attack, I mean, Derek Harmon's not playing this week either. Not that I think that would have changed the outcome of last week's game, but it might have been a little bit better. I just don't know. Like, Derrick Henry, this year at least, I think it's a little less likely he has that, like, huge, like, 200-yard type of game against a team like this. But he still can go for 80 yards on you if you let him. And right now they're letting guys get to the edge of the defense. And that is the biggest concern, because if he gets that edge and he just has Joey Porter Jr. or whoever else to get out of the way and he can get 80 yards for a touchdown, he will probably do it more often than not. So you cannot allow the same type of ease of access to the outside that they did against the Bills.
Yeah, and the Ravens offense, for what it's worth, has not been nearly as dominant, but the running game is something that they still have going in their favor. Shayne, I do have those odds now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they win this week against the Ravens, their odds will jump. Right now, their playoff odds sit around 32% chance of making the tournament. So you have 1 in 3 chance. If they win, it goes all the way up as high as 65%.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose, it can drop as low as 16%. And so that's a massive, massive difference. It almost makes everything ride on this game right here. Like, this is essentially their playoff game right now. You've got to come away with it. For the Ravens, it's even more convincing for them, because if they win this game, they've got an 84% chance to make the playoffs. And even if they lose, they still have a 38% chance to make it.
Yeah, they're not out of it, I don't think. But.
No, that's where the discrepancy comes in. Steelers would have the higher percent because they would own the head-to-head in the moment, but they still have another upcoming game against each other. With the way the Steelers are right now, it's just really hard to envision them sweeping the Ravens this year. The Ravens aren't good either, but the Steelers have been, I mean, they're hitting rock bottom recently.
That's the thing, is you have to hope that they hit rock bottom last week and they hit the bottom and at least bounce up a little bit, right? Like, you're going to need to put a lot of faith in this team to be able to win any game really down the stretch if they look like they did last week. But you just have to hope that they don't look as bad, right? It's kind of hard to look that bad twice in a row. But right now, if I was betting on any team to look that bad twice in a row, unfortunately, it might be this team with the way the offense is operating. So.
Shayne, I'm going to throw this stat out here. You might be aware of this already, but Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, just in general this year, in the passing game, they only have 2 games this season with more than 195 passing yards.
Yeah.
In those games. Like, they just, and this is MVP Lamar Jackson. We're talking about a guy that very well could have won it 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
What version are we going to get? Because I think that's a big storyline. Can he revert back to his former self, where it's like, this guy is really dangerous? He hasn't quite been the same player this year.
No, and I think a lot of it is the injuries, right? Because he's not quite as dynamic. And I think, because this is something that people talk about and have talked about with Lamar the last few years. And again, as much as I am a Steelers fan, I'm also not going to just lie about a player, right? Yeah. People will say, like, if you look at the advanced metrics, like, Lamar's receivers have the most, like, average separation in the NFL. It's like, he's holding on to the ball for 4 seconds and evading 6 tacklers.
Yes,
of course they have the most separation. They're running free, like, after the 4 seconds in the play. And people don't realize like that's what that stat is. It's like separation at the catch point. It's like, yeah, if you're talking about like actual separation, they're not going to rank that high. Zay Flowers is obviously a good separator, but right now the receivers aren't really getting open. They're not playing very well, like naturally, and he's not able to hold on to the ball and just sit there and find avenues to throw the football in as much as he usually would because he's not as dynamic. Now, if he gets healthy, maybe it won't be this week, but if he does get healthy at some point this season, then they'll be really dangerous, I think. Whether it's in the playoffs or week 18 to keep us out of the playoffs potentially. But yeah, right now we might not get as much of a dynamic Lamar Jackson, and that's going to be the best chance they have to make something happen on defenses in the passing game.
Absolutely, Shayne. And the Ravens have been such an odd team because they opened the season winning just one game and losing. What did they start? 1, 2, 3.
I think they were 1-4 to start.
1-5.
Was it 1-5? Oh yeah, it was 1-5.
They started 1-5,
yeah.
And you're by like all intents and purposes, you are eliminated at that point.
Usually,
but then they went on a 5-game win streak up until this last week where they lost against the Bengals and gave the Bengals still a glimmer of hope left in that race. They've been really up and down this season. So which version are we getting? I think that's going to be one of the biggest things to watch this week. Shayne, let's talk about some of the matchups here. We've already talked about maybe two of the most important players on the roster. Anybody else? Any other matchups you're keeping your eye on?
Derrick Henry versus the defense in general. Like, can they actually tackle him consistently? Can they keep him from getting the edge? Right now, it doesn't look like it, but the Ravens' offensive line has not been particularly good this year in either phase. Derrick Henry's still Derrick Henry, but he's not quite as, good at breaking tackles and escaping guys as he once was. They have to keep him in check. You have to force Lamar Jackson, who right now does not look healthy, to beat you with his arm, because right now the receivers aren't playing well. He's not as dynamic like we just talked about. That's the avenue to win. Now, normally I would say that doesn't help you a whole lot, but this version of the Ravens offense, I think you can win that way. It's kind of what the Bengals are able to do for the most part. But the problem is, I just don't know if this defense is right now is capable of limiting a player like Derrick Henry to get to the edge. It just doesn't seem like it.
I guess we will find out, Shayne. It was a disaster, the run defense last week. Typically, this team, over the years, have had the ability to just gash you on the ground.
Yeah.
And so it could be one of those games. So with that, I say let's get to our predictions here. Steelers-Ravens, week 14, monumental matchup that very well could have playoff implications right here and right now. Somebody has to win this bad division this year. It's going to be the Steelers or the Ravens. Shayne, who do you have taking this game?
I have the Ravens winning 24-17. I think that they're just better across the board for the most part. I know that they're banged up themselves in a lot of ways. I know that Lamar isn't fully healthy, but our quarterback is 42 and has a broken wrist. So what does that mean for us anyway, realistically, as far as an advantage goes? I just think they're going to be able to control the game for the most part with the ground game. And then, maybe they rally late a little bit, but they're just, you cannot have any confidence in this team going into this week right now.
Yeah. Shayne, both teams are, I would categorize them as below average right now.
As a whole, Ravens,
yeah. I think that the Ravens are better than the Steelers. I think the Ravens have a better quarterback than the Steelers. I think they have a better run game than the Steelers do.
Yep.
But I don't know what it is. And I can't.
It's because they're playing the Ravens.
Logically. I can't. But I feel like this is the type of game where your back's against the ropes right now. You have got, possibly your job being on the line.
Potentially, I guess.
Mike Tomlin after the 2025 season. Again, we don't think it's
someone's
going
to get fired if it's not him.
There will be. Yes, there will be jobs that will be lost if the Steelers finish with a losing record or miss the playoffs. But I just feel like this is one of those games, for whatever reason, you've been criticized so much in recent weeks. I don't think it's going to be a pretty win, but I do have the Steelers winning 23-20. I think it's going to be one of those weird games where it takes like 3-4 takeaways from the defense. They get one of those again, which they haven't had since the Colts game where they took the ball away 6 times. And they show up when they absolutely have to have it. And they do just enough to keep their head above water, because that's what they've done for 9 years now. So I'm going to say Steelers 23-20. All right.
And you're probably going to be right, by the way, Tommy, because this is what they do. I just, at this point, I'm honestly doing this because I'm hoping that they don't keep getting away with the same thing they always get away with, because that's how this stays the same.
Yeah.
So that's part
And
of
Shayne,
it.
you and I always say, like, if they are to win, we want them to deserve it. We want them to actually look like the better team and not just have the ball bounce their way 3 times or 4 times in a game.
Yeah.
Like, you want them to look like a team that would have a chance that if they were to make the postseason, maybe you can do something with it.
Yeah.
That is not how the Steelers have looked recently. We'll see if that changes this late in the season with only about a month left to go. What do you guys think? Drop your predictions in the chat down below. Like this stream. Make sure you're following our YouTube channel. We go, this show goes out on Wednesday evenings. Also check out Josh Yorsh's show, goes live on Mondays, and Josh and Mark Powell go live post game to cover the Pittsburgh Steelers games. So make sure you're checking out them as well. You can follow Shayne on X at Shayne Kubas. You can follow me on X at Tommy Jaggi. You can download the Still Curtain podcast wherever you get your podcast. Also check us out on YouTube or ask Alexa to play the Still Curtain podcast. And thanks again for listening to the Still Curtain podcast.